everybody. Welcome to the Sally Allen Podcast. As you know, we use this platform as a place for people to share their stories of resilience. And today, I have the incredible, amazing, great connector, Mr. Jon Orlando.
I like that. That was the second take, because the first time we did this, we had a technical glitch, and I was like, is she going to say the exact same thing? And you actually changed it up.
I changed it up.
You brought the heat. Even better.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm any of those things you just mentioned, but I'll take it.
Yes. Well, you should take it because you are. And I want to, I want to say a couple more things about you before we jump into this. You okay with that?
Yeah. So earlier, before we started rolling, you said, I'm going to see if I can embarrass you today. And I said, I can't be embarrassed. And I was wrong.
Yes.
It's working.
I know. Because I know what your kryptonite is.
What's that?
You hate compliments.
I do.
You hate to show the softer side of Jon.
And well, not that. I post animal videos, so I show the softer side all the time. On my story, I post cat videos daily, or animals, or deer crossing, or ducks crossing the road, or whatever. But as strange as this might sound, I don't like when the attention is on me.
Well, we're going to put the attention on the spotlight on him for a minute because I'm sitting in the studio because of him. I probably wouldn't have done a podcast if it wasn't for him, with his encouragement, his wonderful staff that he has here, and this amazing studio. I wouldn't have been able to do it without you guys.
Well, that's very nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
you continue to, and I know it's not just me, I know other podcaster in here, you continue to encourage us and push us to our limits so that we can continue our podcast when we get this courage. So I want to thank you for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're great at it. It's great having you.
Yeah.
And shout out to David Dendy. Really, he's the connector.
Right. Yes, David Dundee is the connector. You and David are connectors because you
I love that
this is
guy.
a spider web of people that you don't hold on to your people. You're like, I'm going to connect people as much as possible. That's a gift that you have.
Yeah, I like that you just said that. I don't hold on to my people, because there are those kind of people, and it's such a mistake. They don't get it. I understand why instinctively people want to do that, why they want to hold their contacts or hoard them, and it's a mistake. It's the easiest path to growth is to just
That's right.
connect. Selfless. Yeah. You get the point. It's all right.
Thank you. I feel so comfortable. I was nervous. Yeah,
Why?
I was a little bit nervous.
Nervous
Man.
every time, or nervous not because of me?
Nervous with you.
Come on. How could
Because you
I
are
should be the least?
Because you're like this amazing podcaster.
You give me way too much
Right.
credit.
You have
but
Action Junkeez. Tell me about
Yes.
your other podcast.
I got Action Junkeez. I co-host a show called Wisecracks with Bill Krakenberger. It's a sports betting show.
Yeah.
And then obviously, we're building out the Junkeez brand. So there's Fitness Junkeez and Bizarre Junkeez, hosted by Austin, who's behind the rig today, engineering for you. And someday there'll be everything Junkeez, sports junkies, car junkies, movie junkies, everything junkies.
I love it. I love it. It's pretty amazing what you've been doing. How long have you guys been in the studio?
2 years this month. Actually, we got the keys, I want to say January 18th of 2021 is I think when they gave me the keys. And then the first show, we did a Political Junkeez episode, like maybe March 1st or something, and then of 2021. And then March like 3rd or 4th, we did our 24-hour, and it's coming up again this March. This will be our 4th annual Action Junkeez 24-hour live stream, 24 straight hours with about 40 different guests in the 24 hours. It's crazy. And we do it to raise some money. I need to find an organization this year, but it'll be to help survivors of domestic violence, women that are survivors of domestic abuse, domestic violence. So
I can probably help you with that.
Okay.
That's my arena.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll talk about that offline. But I want to talk about you.
Yep.
And some of the things you've been doing lately, because when I talk about the great connecting and how you've been doing that, I'd like you to share a little bit more about that and some of the impact that has had on people.
Of connecting that I've done? Oh, wow. That's the other part. I hate taking credit. It's weird. I don't like to take the credit, but I do like when they acknowledge the credit. Yeah. I just don't want to brag about people, but so that's kind of weird now for me to say, let's do it this way. There's a lot of people, there are some people that they didn't have the means to get into podcasting, whatever, and it can be kind of pricey. It's a weird thing, because people don't respect it as a business, not the hosts, but I think everyone, sometimes the hosts, but I mean, starting a podcast is the same as opening a restaurant. It's just, you may not have a whole staff and food costs, but you've got production costs. You may have some editing costs. There's social media costs. Mm-hmm. Sure, you could do it all yourself. You could do it at home on an iPhone. You can start a podcast in your kitchen. You don't need to come here. But if you wanted to do it this way on video and make it look the way your show looks, it can be expensive. And that, it's expensive per show, per month. And then at what point does it start generating revenue?
Right.
There's no way to tell, just like opening a restaurant, just like opening a clothing boutique. Now you have a marketing problem. So it's like, okay, problem one is, how do I do it? Where do I do it? What do I talk about? Okay, you've solved this problem. Even you yourself right now, right? Yeah, you're in that boat. This has been, I want to say, a year. Has it been a year?
Almost.
It's coming up on a year. Okay. Yeah. So, that's a huge commitment financially for you. To turn this into something profitable, or at least step one, break even, right?
Yeah,
would be great, right? Step one, break even, and then maybe let's see if we can make a little bit of money, side money, and then can this be your primary source of revenue? These are all questions that I can never answer. I believe it does if you stick with it. I just don't know when, right? So it's like, then the problem or the task is, you're playing beat the clock, right? Can you outlast the financial commitment? Can you get it across the goal line to where you're profitable? That remains to be seen. But I do believe if you stick with it, I think everyone can make it.
Yeah, I feel like you have to have your why and your motive really set right in order to come into the podcasting business.
Yeah.
Because if it's money, you're going to get discouraged pretty fast.
I agree. And if money is the only currency you're going to value, right? So like, as a personal brand and for personal marketing, personal branding, you are already profitable.
That's right.
Even though you might not have gotten gobs of cash from doing this yet, right. It's elevated your people's perception of you, your brand. Yeah. You could easily, I use the word easily loosely, but like, you're just from this podcast, you have enough tape on you. You have enough of a highlight reel. If you started chopping up, what's a 3-minute highlight reel from all the cool little sound bites you've said in the almost year, that maybe it leads to public speaking gigs for you. So, and getting paid to speak. So that's by way of the podcast, right? It's definitely on the table.
We have work to do, Austin. Although I do have 2 speaking gigs, one in March and one in April. Thank you for sharing the value of the studio and podcasters.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So I know when you started your business, and I Googled you.
You did? So what comes up? I don't even know if I've Googled me. Obviously, Dad comes up.
And then I skipped that and I went to you. I'm talking about you.
Some old publicist stuff comes up, maybe?
You owned a PR firm.
Yeah. Yep.
What age was that? And was that your first job? Tell me a little bit about your past.
That I started the PR firm basically September 13th of 2001. So a couple days after September 11th is when I started the PR firm. I guess officially it was probably October, but the gateway to that happened a few days after September 11th, just doing a favor for a friend that snowballed into starting an actual PR firm, which was kind of crazy. So I was 31 at the time. I'm 52 now, so that's a long time ago. But no, that wasn't the first job. The first like real job. First real job, I guess, really the only 9-to-5 job I've ever had was I sold shoes when I was in college at a store in LA called Front Runners in Brentwood. It was like an athletic, what I call high-end sweats. So we sold like Nikes and stuff, but like really nice sweats and stuff for women and men and women, whatever.
Right.
It was like, but we're like this, it was in Brentwood. So it's like where the celebrities go. It's like Brentwood is like a mini Beverly Hills in LA. So, that was my first like job. And Gio, who you know from Fitness Junkeez, right? Gio was the assistant manager of that store.
Oh my God.
That's how I met Gio.
Oh, long time friend.
Yeah. So I was like I'd worked at like a yogurt store before that, but I mean like a real like a job, like I would consider like a serious job, whatever, was that.
So didn't you also do some openings for your dad?
Yeah. And then I did stand-up comedy. So from the time I was 22 until 31, I did stand-up. For like 10 years, pretty much. Opened for my dad. I opened for Tom Jones and Paul Anka and the Four Tops, the Temptations, Dionne Warwick, Faith Hill, Shania Twain.
Wow.
A lot of people.
I recognize half of those names, but
Just half, yeah. Like the last two that I said. Yeah. Tom Jones, you know Tom Jones, right? No? What's New Pussycat was his big hit of his, or She's a Lady.
If I heard
She's a Lady. Yeah,
yes,
I'm not
She's
going
a
to
Lady,
sing,
yeah.
but yeah.
Can you sing it?
No,
You don't
I can't sing. It would be comical if I sang. Yeah,
You should try it though.
No,
I don't think you'll be embarrassed.
No, trust me, I didn't. Yeah, Austin's trying to egg it on, but no.
All right, but. One of the things I do on this podcast is I talk about resiliency.
Yeah.
And I want to dig in a little bit into when you were doing stand-up comedy for your dad.
Yep.
What was the mindset like going in front, like the first time you went in front of people? What was your mindset? And then right now I know like your resiliency is so high based on the things I see you doing. But back then, at that age.
Back then the mindset was panic, stress, and fear. I was, my dad got this opportunity to have his own theater. So my dad lives in Branson, Missouri. And Branson, Missouri is like Vegas, but with no gambling.
Yeah.
So what's the point? So like instead of casinos up and down one particular strip, in Branson, it's performing arts centers. So they are state-of-the-art theaters that hold 1,500 to, let's say, 5,000 people, all in a row. And you have older entertainers like Bobby Vinton, my dad, Wayne Newton was there at one point, the Osmonds, not Donnie Marie, but they sometimes were there, but the other kids from the Osmonds, Andy Williams, old Moon River, the song Moon River, that was Andy Williams. So that was Branson and still is Branson. There's not as many big names there anymore, but in the 90s, it was like the number one tourist destination, drive-to tourist destination in the country. More people than Disneyland, Niagara Falls, the Grand Canyon, more drive-to traffic went to Branson, Missouri all through the 90s. So that's where my dad got this opportunity to have his own theater, the Jon Orlando Theater there.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, he knew I wanted to do stand-up, and I majored in film. I dropped out of college, but I thought I would maybe be an actor or film director or something like that. But I grew up watching, everyone opened for my dad when I was little. Joan Rivers, David Letterman, Jay Leno, Brad Garrett, Ray Romano. I mean, you name them, they opened for him. And so it was kind of hard to grow up as a kid. The opening act starts at 8. So imagine when you're 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, you go to bed at like 9. So the opening act comes on at 8. So I'd be in the audience from 8 to like 8:30 watching the opening act. And then I'm sleepy. I would literally be asleep in a booth at the Riviera Hotel while my dad is on stage performing and I'm sleeping through his show, but I was awake for the comedian. So I always loved comedians. And so, he said, hey, I'm going to have this theater in Branson, Missouri. You want to come open for me? And I was like, yeah. And I literally procrastinated so much I didn't write any material, and all I had to do was 5 minutes in the beginning, which is a long time. So most comedians, you would start off by going to like open mic night, right, in a small comedy club. Like, so I grew up in LA, so like I would go. Most comedians would go to the Improv or the Comedy Store and try to do a 3 to 5 minute set, right, in the beginning. I started by doing 5 minutes to 2,000 people opening for my dad. I'd never been on stage before. I never held a microphone before. And I wrote my act, if that's what you want to call it, literally the night before. And it was so bad. And I was so nervous. When you're very nervous, you talk fast when you're on stage. Yeah. Or maybe if you watched like your first episode, I bet you talked a lot faster. I definitely did. If you listen to the first episode of Action Junkeez, it's
I don't even
terrible.
go back. I don't even go back.
Don't do it. I try to block it out. But so I did all 5 minutes of material in literally 2 minutes, sweating like a pig. I mean, it was awful.
Okay, so the
awful.
audience knew you were Jon Orlando's son. Did they give you grace?
For sure. They didn't boo, and I was definitely booable. Yeah, I was definitely booable.
So how do you compare your mindset back then? Like you were nervous, scared. You obviously you're 22.
I was 22. I think just age, just life experience, right? Like just it was weird because I grew up. I think I was two things at the same time. Like I grew up in a lot of dressing rooms and traveled a lot. Like I was ordering room service as like an 8-year-old, like calling down and ordering pancakes while my parents were asleep and I was on the road with my dad. Like you know what I mean? So I learned adult things at a young age, but at the same time, I basically grew up with a silver spoon in my mouth. So I didn't have work ethic, drive. Like I said, most people would have prepared if they knew for 6 months they're going to be opening on stage to do comedy. Literally, I knew for 6 months, and I didn't write any material or even attempt to until literally the night before. That is crazy.
Yeah.
And in a bad way. Like it's not respecting what I was doing. It was just, I didn't, there were a lot of life. I needed life to punch me in the face. I hadn't been punched in the face yet, and I needed that. And I think I got that over time, learning on the job. It'll sober you up real. Not that I don't mean sober in a literal sense of drugs or alcohol, but you go out to 2,000 people and you experience what I had experienced. Then you come off stage. You're like, okay, I got to get it together. Like I gotta figure this out. Like, this is rough. When I look at old tape, I'm literally like, what were you thinking, Dad? Like, how could you have put me out there? But it's like throwing me to the wolves. But he knew, like, it's like throwing a kid in the swimming pool, like sink or swim.
Yeah. I commend your dad for that though, because he was so famous. I Googled him too. I did Google him, and he was so famous back then. But to trust you, to put you out there, not worrying about his career. Yeah. That's very commendable.
For sure. Sure. Because that's the big leagues and, people are paying to come. So to subject them to my nonsense for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and eventually worked my way up to 30 to 40 minutes opening for him. By then I think I was worth the price of the ticket, but let's just call it the first year was pretty rough.
And I guess as you go along, you got better at it. Did you do stand-up comedy for a while?
Yeah, 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah, 10 years, traveled all over the country. I shouldn't say all over the world. I mean, I went to Europe with him for a real brief amount of time, like literally a one-nighter, but I did mostly stuff here in the United States. You could almost name any city, and I could probably name a casino in that city that I've performed at.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was fun.
The experience. Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. Beats working.
Yeah.
So
one of the things I was thinking, like when you're born with a silver spoon in your mouth, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to hit rock bottom, or you got to hit some place in order to be able to get back up to be who you are today. Did you experience anything like that?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. When I was 30, between the age of 30 to 31, that 1 year, from September 8th of 2000 to September 8th of 2001, I absolutely found several degrees of rock bottom. Yeah. I lost everything. I blew through all my money, a lot of money. I had a lot of money that I went through. I had a really bad gambling problem back then, and I was in gambling towns opening for people like my dad, Tom Jones, etc. And I had to be at work at 8 o'clock at night, and in most cases, I was done working by 8:20 at night. So that's 23 hours basically to do a lot of bad, stupid things, and I did them all. I mean, where I was when I turned 30. I was in a really good place. And then by the time I turned 31, I was in a really bad place. We went through a lot of money, had cars repoed, had a condo foreclosed on, you name it, it happened to me. It got so bad, I was even indebted to some really bad people on the East Coast a lot of money, about $50K. Yeah.
And that's a lot of money back then.
Yeah.
So how did you get out of that?
September 11th was my wake up call. I knew I had two friends that were in the first tower that crumbled. And, I just started thinking. I was also partying back then, which I never drank my whole life. I still don't drink and never really did drink. I'll have a shot to celebrate something for people just because it makes them happy. But if you saw the look on my face when I have a shot, you would know I definitely don't drink. But I started doing ecstasy all the time, like literally every weekend. From a month after I turned 30 until 31, it got to a point where I quit working. I was just coming here to Vegas. I lived in LA at the time, and I was coming here to Vegas literally every Friday, Saturday, going home Sunday, and then Friday, Saturday, staying Sunday, going home Monday, and then coming in Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then it got to a point where I was basically just living between Mandalay Bay and the Hard Rock.
Wow.
for 9 months,
No stability.
Yeah, it was a little crazy. It was I had a lot of fun. It was weird. It was like a lot of fun. I say it was the best year of my life and the worst year of my life in the same year. But had I not gone through all that and I not collected people from being a degenerate and going out in the nightlife space and just collecting and meeting people, and you're on ecstasy, you're like I don't know if you've ever tried it, but it's a drug that makes you really happy. I mean, it makes you super social, and I was already social, so this was like taking, if there was a social steroid pill, that's the pill. And so, I had amassed a ridiculous number of contacts in that year, and had I not done that, the PR firm would not have been what it became. So it's weird. It was like a blessing and a curse at the same time.
It served a purpose.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But so I'd lost like 20 pounds, not a good 20 pounds, like a drug you're not eating, you have no appetite, partying and burning the candle at both ends, 20 pounds. Everyone, including my dad, was saying like, man, you're too skinny, man, you lost weight, and I was like, and I always used to respond and say, who tells you you're too skinny? Fat people. That's who tells you. Yep, you got it. And then I came out of the shower on September 11th. I watched those buildings crumble live. I was never up late. I went to bed never up early. I went to bed at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I would get up at noon. But for whatever reason, on that morning, I just happened to get up and turn on the TV, and it was on every channel. And I had seen the first tower had just gotten hit. And so I watched live the second tower get hit. And I immediately was calling my friends, these two friends that I had that I knew were in Tower 1. I couldn't get a hold of them, and then later found out in the coming days that they were in that building, and they died. But when I came out of the shower that day, it was very emotional. You remember back then? I mean, it was. Do you remember back then, or where were you?
I was here. I was a few blocks away from all that.
That's right.
In the center of New York City.
Right. Yeah. So wow, it was really crazy for you. I came out of the shower, I looked in the mirror, and I was like, it was the first time I started taking inventory on me, and I was like, you are too skinny, like who is this guy? And I was getting these crazy phone calls from these people back east that I owed the money to. This is back in the day when you still had an answering machine.
Oh.
And so the messages would be insane. I wish I still had them to play for people so you could realize the level of anxiety that these messages would cause.
Yeah.
And it was really a rough, dark time for me, but I just slowly battled back, quit doing the ecstasy, stayed out of Vegas for like a year, didn't gamble, got to the bottom of why did I do what I do, and got better.
So you got a process, though. Everybody has a process that they use to get out of situations like that. What was your process?
Getting back into a daily routine, going to the gym, focusing on me. It sounds all very cliche, focus on you, but that's what I did. I focused on me. I went, started working out every day, and then figuring out, I took a break from stand-up, not self-induced, but the world made me take a break just because no one felt like laughing after September 11th, right? So the opening act was the first thing people would cut off the budget back then, and so there was no stand-up work. So I thought I was just taking some time off and then I'd go back to stand up. But during that time off, I did a favor for a friend, and that's what led to the PR firm starting. And I just started focusing on a new career and just got completely submersed in that. And it was good. It paid off.
That's awesome, Jon. So that process you had started way back when, taking care of yourself, going to the gym and focusing on you, is that what you apply today and what you do?
Yeah. My dad used to always say, like, follow up and follow through is the most important aspect of life. And I didn't get it when he used to tell me. I didn't get it. Follow up and follow through. Like, what does he mean? Like, I didn't really get it. Like, it just, when your dad says it too, or your mom or your dad, like, I think it falls on deaf ears a lot.
Yeah.
Like, you need, like you said, you need to crash and burn and then figure it out on your own. Unfortunately, I wish that was, I find myself advising lots of people younger than me, trying to help. I see them on the path and I'm like, oh man, like, no good.
Yeah.
I have to remind myself, like, sometimes you just gotta go through it. It sucks that's the way it is. I was just telling a friend of mine about her, she's having some trouble with her daughter. And I was like, I get it, but did you forget when you were 17, 18? Like, you forgot how you were. We did stupid stuff.
Right.
And sometimes you gotta learn on your own, right? You just, know, but today, I try to follow up and follow through with things, business.
Yeah.
And it took me forever because the jobs, like I said, I sold shoes. So that's commission-based sales. So really you don't need support staff, right?
Yeah.
It's all on you. Can I get you to buy what I'm selling, right?
Right.
Stand up, same thing. Can I get you to buy what I'm selling, which is funny thoughts, right?
Right.
But that's still a sale.
Yeah.
No money changes hand, but that is a sale, right? Can I get you to buy into me?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then PR, really the same thing. It's can I get you to buy what I'm selling in the form of people, products, brands, right? It's the same thing. No money changes hands officially. If I'm trying to get, a People magazine to do an article on an up and coming actor that no one's heard of, that is a sale, right? I'm selling you this person. I don't need support. I don't need staff for that. However, my PR firm did have employees, and I didn't learn the importance of surrounding yourself around a great team. I micromanaged back then, and I also I was quick to hire and late to fire back then, which was a terrible thing. It cripples a business. Yeah. And if I'm being honest, I never fired, which was even worse. I believed in people too much. I believed I could coach them to be better. I believed they would try harder when we'd have a one-on-one meeting or a staff meeting and I singled someone out. I believed that they could do it. I like culture in the workplace. So I become friends with the quote-unquote employees. And that can be a bad thing. It can be a great thing when everyone pulls their weight, but it can be a disaster when they don't, because then it makes it harder. You're operating your business from your heart instead of your head.
Yes.
And that's a big mistake, right?
Yes. I just went to a client today, and that's one of the things I shared with her, is that she's operating her business exactly with her heart, not her head.
Yeah, business has no emotion. Business doesn't care about your breakup. Business doesn't care that your dog died. Business doesn't care your parents are sick. Business marches on. And that is a cold, harsh reality that a lot of people have trouble dealing with, but that's the truth.
Yeah.
And I had a PR firm crash and burn because I didn't respect that business doesn't have emotion. Even though I had a couple of pretty good mentors. I'm not a big mentor kind of guy, but I did have a couple guys that tried to get a hold of me and tell me 6 months from today, you're going to be out of business running it the way you're running it. And I disagreed. And Andrew Malton was right. Guy named Andrew Malton. Yeah.
So what have you learned in that process now that you're applying here at Sticky Paws Studio? Some of the things you've learned?
So I don't micromanage. I am not a control freak like I used to be. I'm the complete opposite of that now. I call them kids just because they're way younger than me.
Yeah.
But they're absolutely adults in the form of They come in and they get it done, and they work their butts off in here, and they are creative and responsible. And I can't believe it's one thing to have one guy that fits the description I just said, creative and responsible and accountable and all that. We have a whole staff here at Sticky Paws. It's insane.
They're rock star.
They're unbelievable.
They're
I don't I don't tell anyone what to do here.
Yeah.
They know what to do. They may not always, their choices might not always be my choice.
Right.
But it's not wrong. And that's another thing I had to learn, is that just because it's not what I would do, that doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just different.
That's a hard one to overcome.
That's a hard one.
It's very hard.
That took forever.
Yeah, it took forever.
That took this place to teach me that.
And when you have released that control, you know you kind of arrived at this place where you're very secure in yourself and your employees.
For sure. I mean, when I think of the PR days, I would never have gone a full day without showing up at the PR firm. No chance. Or if I did, I would have called in so many times checking on stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't even think about like I need to come to this building.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have come here today if it wasn't for this podcast.
Well, thank you for being here.
Yeah. No, I don't mean it like that. But you know what I mean? Like I don't, these guys run it. They don't need me.
Yeah.
It's all good. They don't need me.
I feel like when you, and we're going in a different direction, but I need to say this, like I feel when you empower your employees and you show them that you trust them and you give them free reign to run a little bit, that's the best thing you can do for them.
Yeah, I agree.
You see them thrive and grow.
I totally agree. You know, so you know Travis, who's my partner here, and he runs the studio. Travis and I, last summer, we had to go to LA to shoot on location, to shoot some documentary stuff for a client.
Yeah.
So that means I'm not here and Travis isn't here.
Yeah.
It didn't even occur to me. Like we came back and I never checked in on this place while we were gone. Right. And we came back and George Carmona, who's here, you know, he's like, I held down the fort while you guys were gone. And like, you know, like, and he was proud of it as he should be. But like, I was like, I can one up that pride that you have. It didn't even occur to me that a fort needed to be held down. Like I knew you guys had it. Like it didn't even occur to me like, oh, or is the business okay? Like didn't never even cross my mind.
Yeah.
Because they're all great.
That's very freeing and stress-free too.
Stress-free.
Stress-free off of you.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you this question. I'm sure you get it all the time. But when you have a father as famous as your dad, did you at any time feel like you were in his shadows and you have to meet certain standards in life?
100%, but not anything he put on me.
Right.
Self-inflicted. And that was part of my downfall when I was 30 is, you know, by the time my dad was 28, he had already had, don't quote me on the number, Dad. I want to say he'd already had 3 number 1 records, sold tens of millions of albums.
Wow.
And had his own TV show on CBS every week. By the time he was 28.
Wow.
By the time I was 28, I was trying to still figure it out. Like I was doing stand-up. I owned a tanning salon in Missouri. I owned a gym in Missouri. But I didn't make millions of dollars from anything. Like there was no millions of dollars. I hadn't made, I guess I'd made maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars, but it's different. It's like, you know, over a body from 22 to 28, you know, maybe I made, you know, 80 grand a year or something like that.
Which isn't bad, but you fell into the comparison trap.
But yeah, I fall into that. Like I'm not famous and I didn't care about being famous, but just like in my head, like you needed fame or money. If you had both, fine. I really didn't care about fame. I just wanted the money. Didn't really care about the fame. If that happened on the road to the money, great. Even now, I'm the same way. Like I don't need to be famous from hosting Action Junkeez.
Right.
I just want it to do well. And if that means a lot of people know who I am, fine. But fame is really not my jam. The money's definitely my jam. But doing things that you love to do. Yes. You know, ultimately, which that I've always done. But that's always hard to monetize, right? Doing the stuff that you love to do can be hard to monetize sometimes. Yeah.
So let's talk about some fun things.
Yeah.
How did you meet Vanessa? She's gorgeous, by the way.
Thank you. I met her on a website called Craigslist. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Sure she'd appreciate
that. No,
that.
Sally, I'm pulling your leg. I was at Chuck E. Cheese. It's a pizza. No, I'm lying. I'm still lying. Okay, truth. I still lived in LA at the time. I used to come to Vegas. Vegas is my playground, always has been.
Yeah.
So, New Year's Eve, Super Bowl, 4th of July, Memorial Day, Labor Day weekend, you could find me in Las Vegas. Right. And also on a random Wednesday, you could find me here. But in this case, it was Super Bowl weekend. It's coming up on 6 years. It'll be 6 years next month. Wow. Super Bowl weekend, I used to come, I still have a group of guys that started off as 5 of us. Uh-huh. That is now, we were just doing the Super Bowl party list at the house we're having a party. You're more than welcome to come. I think we were at 50 something people today. Wow. When we were looking at the list. So I was here in Vegas staying at the Hard Rock, with some friends. And, I was, let me back up. 2 weeks before I came for Super Bowl 6 years ago, I was here for like a poker tournament, and I was staying at the Hard Rock, and I ended up in a restaurant, a steakhouse at the Hard Rock with a friend of mine, and the hostess was drop dead gorgeous, which was Vanessa. And so she sat us, she's the one that sat us, and I was with a female, just friend of mine. And this female friend also likes women. And so we were both drooling over her and, over Vanessa. And my friend was like, well, are you going to make your move, cowboy? Or if not, I'm going to go take her. And I was like, you will do no such thing. I saw her first. I was walking in front of you when we came in. Like, I have dibs. I claim it. So I said, I'm going to go to the bathroom, which was up by the host stand, right? And then on the way back, I'll hit the host stand and shoot my shot. So I didn't even need to go to the bathroom. So I went in there to make it look, like it wasn't forced, like I didn't go just for that. And so I'm in there, for like 2 minutes, just literally staring at the ceiling. All right, that seems like long enough to make it believable. And then I thought I'd make my route over to the host stand, and she was gone. Oh. So the restaurant, it was a late dinner. So the restaurant closes at 10, so no more seatings. And I look at my watch, it was like 10:05. So she had clocked out. Mm-hmm. But I made a mental note. I was like, okay, when we come back in 2 weeks with the group, this is definitely where we're doing dinner, you know? Yeah. So I tell everyone, don't make plans Friday night. I know where we're going to dinner, Right. So I'm walking to the gym at the Hard Rock, and I had to pass by the restaurant. This is in the afternoon on Thursday before the Super Bowl. And I see her. They're not open yet. It's like 4:30 in the afternoon or something. I see her in there, like, doing setup or whatever. So I go to the host stand, and I'm trying to like flag her down. And she's like, pointing at her watch, like, we're not open yet, sir. We're not open. Like, and I'm like, no, come here. And she's like, we're not open. I'm like, no, come here. So she comes out because she's very nice like that, And I'm like, I just wanted to make a reservation. She's like, okay. So I make the reservation with her, and I'm kind of flirting with her. I said, are you working tomorrow night? Or, and she's like, yeah. I said, okay, that's good. Otherwise we could just cancel that reservation. I don't need to come here if you're not going to be here. So the next night we went in there, me and my crew of 6 people for dinner. And she sat us, and I introduced her. I was like, guys, this is Vanessa. This is my future wife. And everyone's like laughing whenever she thinks I'm crazy. And then after dinner, I went up and I talked to her at the host stand for literally 2 hours. Like, how her boss wasn't like, what are you doing? Yeah. She would work in between, whatever. Right. But, and I was relentless in my pursuit, and the rest is history. Yeah.
Oh my God, you guys make such a cute couple. Shout out to you, Vanessa.
Thank you. Yeah, I was 46 back then. She was 25, and I didn't realize, it didn't feel creepy back then, but when I look at photos of us, like from 6 years ago, I don't know, Sally.
You weren't fit back then? Is that it?
No. Well, I was all right. I mean, I wasn't as fit now, but I just mean like in terms of like the age gap. Yeah. It looked a little creepy.
Took you a minute to get used to it?
I was fine with it back then, but when I look at photos, she looked like a baby. I look like an old man. I'm like, ooh.
It's the same thing with me and my husband when we first met.
Yeah.
Because that was 22 years ago.
Yeah.
And I looked like I was 14.
Yeah.
And we're the same age, I turned 50 last year. Yeah. But it was the same thing. People would think when we would go to the gas stations, like especially the Indian-owned gas station, they would be like, "What you doing with our girl?"
Right? Yeah. Like, you know how they say, like,
patronize
see
you?
something, say something? Like, I'm
yeah.
surprised some calls didn't come in. Like, is this trafficking? What's going on here?
Yeah,
you know?
we got the same thing.
Yeah.
So perfect. What is your biggest pet peeve?
Ooh, I have a lot. Like in a relationship or just
No,
life?
just in general.
Yeah, in life.
Just
Okay.
in life. Yeah.
So I cannot stand when I eat out a lot.
Yeah.
So we will not seat incomplete parties makes me crazy. So like example, if I go to the Cheesecake Factory and I say there's 4 of us and then they say, is everyone here? And I go, no, there's 3 of us here right now. They won't seat you. It makes me nuts. I know that seems trivial, but when you eat out a lot, it's annoying. And so then now I just go, now when I book a reservation or when I tell them a table, I'll tell them it's 3. If I know some, I tell them one less. Because if you're at party of 3, you're at the same table for 4.
Yeah.
And if I'm a party of 6, I just say I'm a party of 5 because the same table is going to be for 6.
Right,
so
right.
I just shorten it up. But
So I could just say party of 1 while my husband's parking.
yeah, I hate I hate that. It's like that stuff drives me nuts. There's a lot of things that I always say, like, I just need things to make sense. If it makes sense, I'm really nice. When it doesn't make sense, I get a little crazy.
Thanks, John. This was
sorry.
really don't be sorry. That's your pet peeve. Everybody has their pet peeves.
Yeah.
So what's a takeaway for our audience today?
Ooh. I mean, if you're an entrepreneur, I would just say never give up. Don't listen to people that tell you the odds or, that want to. It's weird how people, I get it. They think they're looking out for you. Even your friends, they try to bring you back to earth or whatever. But it's all right to dream. Like, it's all right to go for it. It's all right to take a shot at something. You can always fall back on the safe play. You can always fall back on a 9 to 5. And I'm not hating on a 9 to 5 life. I mean, there's something to be said about that stability and health insurance. And, my plan is great if you make it.
Right.
Right. My plan, even currently, like when I say make it, I mean like where for an entrepreneur, it needs to lead to an acquisition, right? You need to sell a business. You need to get acquired or, there needs to be an exit for it to pan out like fully. Right. So my plan is going to bite me in the ass if I don't get that acquisition because I don't have 401k. I don't have health insurance. I don't have, you know what I mean? There's a lot of those things that an entrepreneur doesn't have unless you hit big. And so then when I'm, if I'm 65, now I'm in like, now what? Like, you know what I mean? So this plan can backfire, but you can't make it thinking like that. You got to go for it, So I would just say my advice would, the takeaway would be if you are an entrepreneur, like, don't give up.
Yeah.
Be relentless. I'm all for manifesting. I think I said this on another podcast recently. Like, I'm all for manifesting, but as long as you keep in mind, there has to be action to follow up.
That's right.
Just dreaming about it and wishing it to come to fruition is not going to cut it. Your actions every day need to map to bringing that manifestation to reality.
Yes. And as the owner of Sticky Paw, what encouragement would you give to other podcasters?
Same thing. Don't give up. Don't really focus on building brand and focusing on the content. I have this chat with a guy named David Kohlmeyer almost daily. The importance of like focusing on the content, focus on good conversation. Don't worry about the numbers. Don't worry if you're posting on YouTube and it's got 11 views or you post something on Instagram and it has 20 likes. Like, don't compare it to everyone else. Don't worry about it. Just keep doing your thing. Keep your head down, stay focused, and just keep doing it. And sooner or later, all those, I call them deposits, right? All those deposits that you've made into the social media marketing bank, you will be able to make a withdrawal. But you got to make sure you put all the deposits in first, and then let those deposits earn interest.
Your message has been so consistent because a year ago, that's the message you gave me.
Yeah.
And that was so encouraging. So thank you so much for sharing that. Well, friends, this comes to the close of this episode today with Jon Orlando, the amazing Jon.
I like it. I sound like a magician. The amazing.
The amazing
Yes.
Jon Orlando. And I'm losing my closing.
I love it. Keep it.
Anyway,
No editing.
No editing.
Okay.
No editing. We're going to post this as it is. So usually I have a takeaway, but Jon just closed with a perfect takeaway. So I'm going to leave it at that. If you like our podcast, please remember to rate, review, and share with your friends. I want to thank Sticky Paws Studio and Jon again. And thank you all.